reminder, if you guys have a cell phone, silence it or turn it off. It's your call. Our Pledge of Allegiance is going to be offered by Councilman Arnold Lopez, and following that will be the opening prayer by Councilman Mike Anazola. Would you stand with me and remain standing all the way through for the prayer, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lord God, Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day which you have bestowed upon us, Lord. We thank you for all of our great employees, our department heads, our city manager, Lord, our fine men that are sitting up here in the council. We ask that we have a great meeting, that we hear each other, have our ears open and listen and pray for all the lives that we lost due to COVID. Heavenly Father, we lift up the people and their families in this time. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Councilman. That brings us to item 5, which is comments on agenda items. None. And the other? None. That'll bring us to item 7, a public hearing. This is a public hearing for a proposed rezone of Graham County Parcel 101-20-041. Susan, do you have any information, any more than that for us at this time?
Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council. The Planning and Community Development Department is in receipt of a rezone application from DM Property Investment. The rezone request is for Graham County parcel number 101-20-041, located at 1900 West Relation Street. That is the area that is striped in yellow. That's before you on the screen and as part of your packet. The property currently contains a single-family residence. The applicant is requesting to rezone the property from AR Agricultural Residential and R110 Single-Family Residential to C-MH Conventional Manufactured Home. So currently the property is split zoned. The applicant chose the C-MH zoning district classification because they wish to do a lot split and place a manufactured home on the rear portion of the property. The purpose of the C-MH Conventional Manufactured Home District is to provide a district where single-family conventional homes and manufactured homes may be interspersed. The C-MH district requires a minimum lot size of 6,000 square feet and the minimum lot width of 60 feet. The 51,921 square foot property meets the minimum lot size and lot width requirements of this district, and you have a listing of the permitted uses for that district as part of your packet. As required by zoning ordinance section 17-20-020, the applicant is required to hold a neighborhood meeting on the rezone prior to it going before the Planning and Zoning Commission. A meeting notice along with the rezoning application was mailed to all property owners within 150 feet of the property. The meeting was held on September 24th, 2020 at 6 p.m. at the Safford Annex building, and no members of the public attended that meeting. And you have, as part of your packet, the outline of the general plan provisions that apply to rezoning of property. The Planning and Zoning Commission did meet and hold a public hearing on October 19th, 2020. The Planning and Zoning Commission voted unanimously to recommend that the City Council approve the rezone application, citing General Plan Goal Number 5, Policy Number 1, and Goal Number 14. Staff is recommending that the rezone request be approved for the following reasons. The rezone request is in conformance with General Plan Policy Number 5, or Goal Number 5, Policy Number 1, and Goal Number 14. The property is currently in residential use, and the rezone is compatible with the adjacent residential properties. I'll be happy to answer any questions should you have any. Also, the applicants are here to answer any questions from the mayor and the council.
Have a question, Susan? I know you said that no members of the public attended the meeting, but was there any opposition to this at all?
Mayor Couts and Councilman Seal, during the Planning and Zoning Commission, 2 members of the public were there, did express some opposition. There was included the minutes, the draft minutes from that meeting were part of your packet. And once the members of the public understood exactly what it was that the applicant wanted to do with the property, then they reapproached the Planning and Zoning Commission and stated that they were not in opposition to the rezoning.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
When I read the minutes, I was glad, one of the concerns at the time was, I think to have a clarity in the whole thing. And I felt comfortable, and so did the individual that, kind of had the concerns. He felt very comfortable with what was actually going to be done. The one concern I did have myself, I know in the minutes, the type of home it's going to be suitable, a nice home. I just hope with that whatever else goes in there is also, so that we don't end up with a mobile home like the one on 8th Street that still isn't complete. I'm sure that the property owners will make sure that everything looks nice. I feel comfortable too.
And Mayor and Vice Mayor Ortega, I can speak perhaps on behalf of the applicants that the manufactured home that they intend to place on the property is the manufactured home that's currently located at the Mayock.
Okay.
So they're gonna move that to this property.
Susan, I want to know where we stand. I know this really is very questionable comment on item 7. But have we revisited the requirements for the mobile homes or manufactured homes to be placed in city limits?
Yes, Mayor, that went to a workshop with the Planning and Zoning Commission, and the Planning and Zoning Commission will be reviewing a text amendment at their November 30th meeting.
And you said everybody seems to be on board with it so far, so I imagine the question was asked, because my concern was, is this gonna cause more mobile or manufactured homes to be put in there? And does it just open the floodgate up? But you said everybody was with it, so imagine that was addressed.
Mayor and Councilman Lopez, yes, I mean, this is only a rezoning of one particular property. If somebody wanted to do a similar action to another piece of property in that vicinity, they would have to go through the same public process in order to rezone another property to allow manufactured home. Manufactured homes are only allowed in the agricultural residential district and in the conventional manufactured home district.
Yeah.
Councilman McGoy?
I think I know what intends to happen, but based on the wording of the zone, theoretically, there could be 8 or 9 homes in that, depending on how it's split. Is there anything to stop that from becoming a mobile home park?
Councilman McGoy and Mayor, a mobile home park is its own separate zoning. So it's my understanding that it's the intention of the applicants that they just plan to do a single lot split. You can only split a maximum of 3 lot splits before you trigger the subdivision regulations. And that may be something that's better addressed by the applicant on their intentions of what they want to do with the property, if you wish to speak with them directly.
Well, I don't think they intend to, but based on the way this is written, through conveyances, split 3 times and then each piece split 3 times again, we could have 9 homes in there. Just based on the 6, I haven't checked the width or anything, but just on the 6,000 square foot minimum,
Yeah,
there's enough room to do almost 10.
Mayor and Councilman McGoy, they have to have a minimum of 60-foot lot width on a public or private right-of-way. So without putting in a new road somewhere and having enough land to be able to do that, even if they wish to do more than 3 splits, I don't anticipate that happening because of the subdivision requirements and the minimum width facing a public or private right-of-way requirements.
I don't expect them to intend to do that, but a later owner really could, the way that's written. Is that not correct?
potentially, when I looked at the property itself and the 60-foot width requirements and the minimum square footage requirements, and the fact that the most that we can approve as a lot split is 3 lots, then the greatest potential for lots on that particular piece of property would be going from 1 lot, which is the L-shaped lot, to a potential of 3 separate lots. That's the maximum. Otherwise, it would trigger the subdivision regulations.
Thank you.
Once again, this is open to the public. Do we have anybody from the public that'd like to speak on this? Last call for the public. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and close the public hearing and reconvene to regular meeting. That brings us to item 9.1, ordinance number 020-013.
So Mayor and Council, as part of a rezone application, it requires an ordinance, and that ordinance requires 2 readings, the first reading, and then the second reading would be on December 14th, and it would be the second reading in which the council would vote on whether or not to approve the rezoning. So Tammy, do you want to read this?
Ordinance number 020-013, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, effectuating a map amendment to the zoning map of the city of Safford, Graham County, assessors parcel number 101-20-041, from AR agriculture residential, R110, single-family residential, to C-MH conventional manufactured home.
Okay, any more discussion from the council? All right, thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
Brings us to item 9.2, ordinance 020-014, first reading. John?
Mayor, members of council, ordinance 014 is designed to facilitate a exchange of land between a city parcel and a private parcel. The city parcel is located at 735 Pine Avenue, and the private parcel is at 890 Central Avenue. Background is in October 2018, the city purchased the Old True Hope Fellowship Church property consisting of .32 acres located at 808 Central Avenue. This property was purchased with the future intent of constructing a new fire station within the 800 block between 5th Avenue and Central Avenue. In June 2019, the city purchased property from Roper Lake Investments consisting of .75 acres located at 735 Pine Avenue. Property was purchased in order to construct the Pine Avenue connection between Highway 70 and East 8th Street. During the design of the 8th Street and Pine Avenue, it was determined that the remaining portion of the lot fronting Pine Avenue and Highway 70 could be split out and sold. It was at this time that the discussion began with Mr. Arturo Manuel Gastelum, owner of Safford Motors, located at 890 Central Avenue, regarding a possible land swap. Mr. Gastelum's property is southwest corner of the approximate 1-acre section of 800 block between 5th Avenue and Central Avenue and consists of approximately .24 acres. The city completed a record of survey and split the lot on Pine Avenue with approximately 0.54 acres used for the Pine Avenue connection and .21 acres remaining fronting Pine Avenue and Highway 70. And there are attachments. City completed evaluation of Mr. Gastelum's property and the new city property on Pine Avenue based on the price the city paid for True Hope Fellowship property adjacent to Mr. Gastelum's property and the Pine Avenue property purchased from Roper Lake Investments. Staff, in consultation with the city attorney, determined that the city parcel and the private parcel are of substantially equal quality or value and warrant a non-monetary exchange. So that really was the basis of the exchange, was the ability to exchange the properties without any exchange of money based on the value of the property. So in essence, what was done is the True Hope Church was used as the basis for valuing the land without the building included. Same thing was done on the Pine Avenue property. And then in terms of the exchange, in terms of Pine Avenue, the property itself was, the building was added back to the property, and the value was calculated. So based on the calculation, the value of the Pine Avenue property came to $99,000, and then the property on Central was $116,000. And so in consultation with the city attorney, he felt that those two values were close enough that we could do a land swap without any exchange of money.
Anybody from council?
That's it.
Okay. Tammy, you wanna read the first ordinance in?
Ordinance number 020-014, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, authorizing a land exchange between the city of Safford and Arturo Manuel Gastelum by transferring ownership of a 9,034 square foot parcel owned by the city for a 10,500 square foot parcel owned by Arturo Manuel Gastelum.
Okay, thank you, Tammy. Bring us to item 9.3, which is ordinance 020-015. That'll be by Mr. Matthew Hoschel.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. Tonight we have the ordinance 2015, an ordinance of the city of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, establishing Title 8, Chapter 8.09 graffiti. A little background. In recent months, the city of Safford has been experiencing an increase in the prevalence of graffiti in the community. Activities of this nature create a blight condition within the city that lowers the quality of life to citizens and visitors to the community. The city considers maintaining the proper aesthetic in keeping with community values. We have therefore developed a graffiti abatement program that will allow the city to respond quickly and minimize the impact of the public nuisance. The proposed ordinance would outline clear guidelines governing the graffiti abatement program, and also attached is the draft resolution number R2030, which would set clear guidelines for the fees accompanied with violation of the ordinance. At this time, since it is the first reading, it'll bring it to council with any discussion or questions regarding the ordinance.
On some of this in here, are we punishing the people that got graffitied for not removing stuff off their walls or whatever it is? You know, are we punishing people who wasn't their fault of their own?
Mayor, Councilman Lopez, within the graffiti abatement program, the property owner does have the opportunity to get the graffiti removed free of charge as a service that the city does for the property owner. If the property owner refuses the city's service, then they have 5 days to remove the graffiti themselves. And as follows with any code enforcement, if they refuse to clean up their property or to remove the blight, then there is a code enforcement procedure that we follow, and that's outlined in the ordinance. So to answer the question, yes, we would end up taking a proper code enforcement procedure if they refuse to remove the graffiti.
And proper could be fining them or what?
In this, it's just a fine.
It's just a fine.
Now,
Now,
the city, it does say in there in extreme cases that the city may pursue other legal action, because graffiti by itself is a criminal act, and leaving it remaining on the property would condone that activity.
So if they don't take our help and they don't remove it within 5 days, but we don't hear why or any reasoning yet, we're just gonna implement punitive stuff on them.
Mayor, Councilman Lopez, there is also an appeal process laid out through the ordinance. They do have 2 appeal opportunities, one 5 days within the notice from the city of removal of graffiti, and then another 30 days after we impose fees, or we write up a statement with fees to remove the graffiti.
So we're holding them. Why can't it read, okay, now, because you won't do it, we are gonna go do it,
That is correct. It does read that in the ordinance, Councilman Lopez.
without making them pay a price? I don't want them punished for something necessarily that wasn't their fault to begin with.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that, Mayor, Councilman Lopez, what we did was, we basically followed pre-existing items of this nature in our code, like for weed abatement, and so we followed the basic outline that we followed with those ordinances. In the case of graffiti, it may not be completely applicable, because obviously in this case, they've been tagged by someone else. And so, again, this is us just bringing the first draft, so if there are any provisions in there that you feel are too punitive and we want to approach this from a different direction, we can. The only thing that I would caution is, if we do end up in a situation where there's graffiti on a property that we want to remove, we may not have an option unless we put some type of mechanism in there that tries to force compliance in some way. Now, we can do that with a fine only and try to get movement on that, and maybe remove those provisions that address any kind of misdemeanors or any kind of court issues for the people that have been tagged. But again, it's one of those things where if we have a graffiti abatement program and we are faced with non-compliance, then we have to have some means of trying to pursue some level of enforcement. Otherwise, you just end up with the graffiti. So again, it's a first reading, and if this is too strong, which Matt and I discussed before we came here, that, you know, we kind of thought it might be, but we thought it was a good starting point. So if there are aspects of the ordinance that you would like to see us alter for this particular purpose, we can do that.
I'll have to read it a little deeper. You know how I can make it even bigger than that if I read more. But weeds in a field are going to catch fire and cause danger, or you know, or too much stuff in the alley blocks emergency vehicles and things like that. I just I'll have to read more into it and see what I do object about.
Okay, and I do believe that we do have to have some input, because I want to make sure that we don't want it to become punitive.
Yes.
At the same time, we want to have some type of mechanism where, because we're offering to go in and take it down for free. So if it remains, and there's, you know, it could be gang language, it could be an obscenity or something, we want to have some level of enforcement. And again, we have levels of enforcement now that we don't always pursue to the fullest extent. So we, you know, we can always opt out, and the language says may and not shall, so we have the option of either pursuing it or not. Now, certain aspects of it we can eliminate completely, but I think at least leaving some level of fine that's associated with the graffiti might be useful, and maybe take language out that would pursue any kind of legal action.
Okay, so,
Is it 5 working days? Because we don't even work 5 working days. Is it, or is it 5 days? Because I feel like that's pretty strong. So you just got 5 days on here. So 5 days, city don't work on Friday.
Mayor Couts, there's an opportunity to change the amount of days in between and to change the language with that. If council decides that they want to make it a longer period, then we can do that. But the idea behind the 5 days was to get the graffiti cleaned up as soon as possible, so that it doesn't encourage more graffiti.
yeah, I wanted that. Yeah,
Go ahead.
but city manager would like to say something.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
can't, this plexiglass gives me like, there's 3 of you over there.
the 5 days would be actually from the point of notice too, so it may be on there longer. We literally would have to notify them either by certified mail or in person that the graffiti is something we want to be removed. So it may end up working out to be longer than 5 days. It would be 5 days from the date at which they are officially notified that we would like to remove it, and offer to remove it for them at that point. But we could still lengthen that.
Okay.
Mayor, I have a question on
Go
that.
ahead.
Sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Okay, sorry, Councilman Seal. On the lien removal, is that gonna be pretty general on that part there?
With other parts of the code, yes.
Yeah.
That lien removal is pretty standard throughout a lot of our code that we have.
Okay.
With direction from Bill Sims as well, our attorney.
Okay.
He read through that, and he suggested some provisions that I had put in there to make it more standardized with how things are now with lawsuits and liens.
Okay. And I wanna say thank you to you two for showing me how to use this app, and I've been out and about teaching people about
Are
this.
you the one doing the graffiti?
Oh, no,
You'll have
I love taking the pictures.
Gene?
Mayor Councilman Andazola, you will have another presentation tonight from Cade
Okay,
Bryce. So
thank you.
Councilman Seal?
No, I just had a comment. You know, I know we don't have extra staff, and everyone's busy. But in my way of thinking, if we're talking to a homeowner about something like this, there's a way we can make the personal visit
right.
rather than have them get some kind of a registered letter in the mail. Those are sometimes kind of ominous, and, you know, if we can approach it with the idea that, you know, we understand you've been vandalized, and we're here to help you remove that. I personally think that's a lot
That's right.
nicer way to go about it. But,
It-
but again, I know we're busy, and, but I don't think we have a huge problem at this point.
Is,
Okay, hang on, Arnold, hold that thought, manager?
Mayor, Councilman Seal, just so you know, there's a provision there for the police to actually go and notify as well. So you have two options. It can be a certified letter, or it can be a police officer going to the house, and we could remove the certified letter completely if you want, and just have it be an in-person
Yeah,
notice.
it needs to be in person. I agree.
Would our code enforcement be involved in that or no?
Yeah, that's the other thing too, is could, instead of having an officer be there, could the code enforcement, I mean, nobody likes seeing an officer on my property either.
yeah,
No.
Yeah, it's just an idea. I don't know if that would
Mayor
be
Couch.
something-
Chief, you
You know,
like that, don't you?
eh,
Passing the buck.
Yeah, they start running or something, you know, just to get a.
With our graffiti abatement program that we've already have in place, most times it's actually being contacted by our Public Works Department because they're the ones that ultimately take care of the graffiti. So I think that Lance has actually been contacting a lot of the property owners and getting the release of liability to take care of the graffiti, most cases in person or by phone.
Okay, perfect. I have one from Vice Mayor. Is
Yeah,
that okay?
if I read it right, if the individual caught doing the tagging if he was caught doing it, that he might have to pay to have it removed. I don't like that because 9 times out of 10, you're not gonna get paid. I'd rather have that addressed in some other way, working it off, supervising him while he, pay, that doesn't mean anything to him, as far as I'm concerned. I'd like to, give that some more thought.
Mayor, Councilman Ortega, we can change that as well to do some sort of public service, or we can put that in there.
Because when I was in business, when we get a bad check, we turn it over, we never got it. Once they do it, they do it.
John?
Mayor Counts, Vice Mayor Ortega, the oddly placed, but at the end of the ordinance, there's a provision for actually pursuing legal action against the person applying the graffiti as opposed to trying to charge them for it, because as you say, you're highly unlikely to get paid. So the way it's written, at least up to this point, it's the legal action, which is, I think, where we really would want to go. You want the legal action to be more focused on the perpetrator of the graffiti, not on the homeowner. And then, again, it could be a private residence or it could be a business as well. And so if it became an issue on the person that owns the property, I think using a monetary fine in more extreme cases would be a better approach. So there is a provision in here for having the person who initiates, who sprays the graffiti to then be, or however they apply it, to have legal action against them.
Well, good, and again, I'd hope that the legal action is more than a slap on the wrist, because that doesn't do any good, not anymore.
Mayor, I have a question for the city manager. Mr. Casella, do we have any information or any type of lead on any of these people that are doing this? Sorry, Chief.
Mayor Counts, Councilman Andazola, I will defer to our chief.
Sorry, Chief. I had to ask.
Mayor, Councilman Andazola, we do have some information on names of people involved. It's interesting. It stopped for a while. One of the people we've been kind of watching, trying to catch doing this, was went actually into custody for a short period of time, and then had an ankle monitor. When the ankle monitor came off, when they were released back in the street, it started up again. So we have some good leads. We just haven't actually been able to catch them in the act of.
Okay, so he's been in the already.
Yeah. And if you don't mind, I could answer Councilman Ortega's question a little bit. Under the law, if we catch them, we cite them into juvenile probation if they're juveniles, or into court if they're adults. It's kind of up to the court what the punishment is at that point, but they do a lot of times get community service and those kind of things with that. We've actually had them have to paint walls and do those kind of things as part of. So.
Thank you.
So,
Go ahead.
I'm back with Lance. So, If we remove it, or it's at no cost to the person. Okay, so there's another step where they may not want us to do it and they want to do it themselves, but we can supply them with the means of getting it removed also. You know, we have spray that we put on there and then it removes it. They may want to do it themselves, so we can furnish them with some of the supplies possibly also.
Mayor Couch, Councilman Lopez, that doesn't say that we would supply them with that. They would seek the means themselves through some sort of contractor, or if they wanted to paint it themselves.
But we could
If
put
you would-
that in there possibly.
If you'd like to say that we would furnish them with the supplies, that could be put in there, yes.
If need be, it may be, I mean, if we're gonna do it for free, they may, you know, get a couple of cans of that too. That might be all there is to it. I don't wanna get into it a whole lot, but that's just another simple step, okay?
And I would like to extend a thank you to Mr. Henry and his crew, so thank you guys very much for doing what you're doing.
It must
okay?
be November, you're
That's just-
thankful.
That's
Yes,
just
I'm
another
very
simple-
thankful.
That's just another simple offer, Matthew, possibly.
Any others? I think it's a great start. I think it can be revised a little bit, and I know that you have to shoot for the stars and then let us tear it up too, and then bring it back and stuff, so I appreciate the work that's gone into it. I know that Councilman Anazola's been big on this graffiti. I almost feel like there's a reason for it, I don't know, but I'm just kidding, Mike. You're not spraying the graffiti. But anyway, so I appreciate everybody that has been on board, and I think you got some good direction, and you'll be bringing us back another for the reading. I don't know if we even want this first reading in right now, do we? You want the first reading in? You do? And with the changes later? Okay, go ahead, read it in. Unless anybody has more questions.
No, sir.
All right.
Ordinance number 020015, an ordinance of the City of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, adopting Chapter 8.09 of the City of Safford Municipal Code, establishing a graffiti abatement program.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Brings us to item 9.4, ordinance 020-016. John, this is you as well.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. The ordinance 016 is staff bringing a recommendation, a request for an adoption, and a change to the code for the way we do our meetings currently. Essentially, the changes are twofold. One is the code language as it currently exists. It says that the first meeting of the month is a council meeting and the second meeting is a work session. And since we've gone to doing two full council meetings a month, my recommendation is we make that change so that it mirrors what we're doing already. And then I also added language on work sessions, and the, just a note, the language in your packet, we wanted to amend. Councilman Lopez had made a comment at the work session, which I very skillfully forgot to put into your packets. But basically what it does is it provides additional options for convening the work sessions at other locations other than the library, just in case that we choose to do that. And it's the same language that's in the work session, or the council meeting language. The language added for the work session provides us hopefully with greater flexibility. I know that we have work sessions approximately every 3 months, and my experience so far is that I have items that I could bring to you much more quickly. And the way the language is written, number one, we still could have the meetings if we want them on a Friday every 3 months if there are large items that we want to do. But what the language would allow you to do, and my suggestion would be that when it's necessary, that we add a work session on the same night that we have a council meeting. So we would have a council meeting. The meeting would then run its course. We would end the council meeting. We could then convene a work session, and whatever items are on that agenda, we could then address those items right away. And so so for example, like Firth Park, when we had some discussion we wanted to have, I could have brought that back very quickly. We could have put it on the agenda and moved it along more quickly. So I would like to see, I would suggest that we try that and have work sessions associated as needed with the council meetings. And again, the way that the language is written into the code, you have complete flexibility. So if you want to try it and it doesn't work, then we just don't keep doing it. But you don't have to amend the code, because the way the code is written, it gives you enough flexibility that you can change it. Obviously, the meetings need to be noticed, and we would still follow that procedure. But I think this opens things up, and that way, if we do have items that I would, instead of waiting 3 months to bring it to you, we can have a work session at the end of a council meeting, then I think it would move work along quickly. And again, there are months where, you know, we cancel council meetings because there's not enough information. We may be able to make use of those evenings to do a work session. So again, I'm kind of putting that out there as kind of food for thought and to get your feedback. But again, I'm just trying to see if we can't be a little more flexible, and then it would move, we'd be able to move things a little quicker.
I remember when we changed this, the timeline I may not have quite correct, but I believe that it was your idea, Mayor. I don't know that you were mayor at the time, but you were on the council, and suggested that we turn one of our meetings into a work session so that we would have the opportunity to discuss things in greater detail that might be coming up. As it reads here, we don't necessarily make a call to the public in those meetings, but it didn't take long before we reverted back to, we really didn't have a work session per se. It was, like the manager mentioned, it was 2 council meetings. So I guess my question is, there's a lot of flexibility. Seemed like there'd be flexibility under the system that we're using now to kind of follow that same type of format. And we could, you know, have a call to the public if that's something that would be beneficial to people. If we're going to have a work session on top of a council meeting, I think Councilman Lopez should not be allowed to ask any questions in the council meeting.
I second that.
So we can move forward, but I just think that, you know, there's a reason why we agreed with your, do you remember when this happened? It was you, right? That brought it up? And we all agreed with that because we felt like it was good to have an opportunity to maybe, I'm not gonna say in a more informal manner, because we're still in the meeting, but to discuss things without necessarily taking a vote on them. But I think we voted on things on the fourth Monday, and so I guess I'm okay either direction, but I think there's enough flexibility to leave it like it is and still have that work session and conduct business as well if we needed to. That's just my thoughts on it. Again, I don't feel strongly about it one way or the other, but I don't know if we need to necessarily change it to accommodate what we're wanting to do.
I know that one of the reasons was our meetings were long, and then we weren't actually, the information wasn't, as I felt, wasn't delivered. And so then that's where we was hoping to be able to break it down a little bit tighter. But I didn't understand why we needed to change it. When I saw that, I'm like, I kind of felt we were going really well. The one thing that I didn't like is I didn't like the public not being able to chime in. Sometimes work sessions are times when I feel like the public needs to be able to chime in, or at least to hear something, because we're doing some different things. So I know that was new verbiage, but or that was verbiage that was there at the original one. I'm okay with leaving it as well, the way we have it, because I still think there was enough flexibility as well.
But I do think, as I mentioned, as you mentioned, that it might be good to hear from the public.
I agree.
And I don't know if does that require an ordinance change or anything?
I think it would, yes.
Have a call to the public. And I agree with, you know, the meeting place has changed since this happened, and that probably needs to be addressed.
So would we at least make the change for the council meetings so that they're both council meetings and not a council meeting and a work session?
What do you feel, Gene?
Like I said, I don't feel real strongly either way. I think the idea of having a work session once a month would give us an opportunity to, as the manager mentioned, to get things in front of us in a more timely manner than every quarter.
Right.
And I don't mind coming to an extra meeting. I couldn't come that last Friday. There were about 3 months out of the year where I'm not able to, you know, to break away from work. But
right.
You know, I don't mind coming to one if it's necessary. But I think a lot of that could be accomplished on a Monday.
And see, that's I mean, we have taken away quite a bit of, we've gotten rid of some meetings because we didn't have enough. And I've always thought to myself, well, there's a lot of work session stuff that could be brought at that time that don't need to wait until, every quarter to have them. So I still think that if we left it as is and just changed it to where the only thing that would be really changed is that a call to the public would be held, that's what I feel like we should still do. That way we could have a discussion on this Monday and say, hey, you know what, we needed a little bit more information, therefore I want that next week or in 2 weeks for a work session.
I think that's the way it was written before, was Monday, the first Monday was called to the public, and the second one was a work session. And then we got away from that, and then they ended up being that, the wording didn't change, we got away from it that way. And
I
so,
think management got away from it. I don't know if the
Yeah,
council did, but
manager
management did.
But the second one, agenda meeting and partial work session, a flexibility in that second meeting, I would like to see.
I think we have that.
Yeah, we probably do have that, because when we have our work sessions, it is a freer flowing conversation. And that is what's needed, and if you bring something in preparation of our work session, then we're that much more ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John?
So, Mayor, council, members of council, so I guess what I'm hearing is we want to leave it a council meeting and a work session, but now the second meeting is going to be a work session? Or is there going to be, we want to make it an addendum and have 2 council meetings, but the second one has a work session attached?
That's what I thought you were getting at.
Well, I'm asking for feedback, because
Well, I
I'm not
thought-
sure where everybody's at.
It used to be a council meeting, and then the second meeting in the month was for a work session that still had action items on it. You could still bring stuff to us that we could still have action items on, but it was considered a work session to where if something happened at the first meeting of the month, we didn't wait for a quarter to happen to get that addressed, that we got it addressed at the work session. And if we liked that, then that could be an action item, or we waited until the next first meeting of the following month for the action item because of what the work session produced.
Right.
That's what it was supposed to be under, and it worked for a little bit, and then I think management, started taking away from that.
But that was 6 or 8 years ago. probably.
It was.
So, we can't have action items at a work session.
Okay?
So,
And that's fine, then that tells you then we can't have an action item.
Right, so then, but again, I'm just trying to get a feel, and again, from everyone, because I'm just putting this out there, really, my motivation was really to match what we did, what we were doing, and then also to try to get work session items more quickly, because the sooner I can get them to you, the sooner we can move on them. So again, I just want to make it, I want to make sure I understand, because wherever you want to go is fine. I just want to make sure I understand where you're
To
going.
me, if you have an item that you wanted to have a work session afterwards because you have more information, that should have been provided at the very first time. So let's do it that way. Let's have a council meeting and a work session.
Every meeting.
Yep, just like we have, like it was written, but make the work session open to the public
Okay.
comment. Huh?
They're open to the public, but you mean is they can speak?
They can speak.
I don't know that you can do that, I'd have to check with the clerk.
It's changed for it
Yeah,
to
there
say
used to be an
call
ordinance
to the
change. We
public.
could change that.
Yeah, because we have it written right now in the code that states no call to the public. So we just have to correct that.
And we'll just double check that with the attorney, just to make sure at the work session we can do a call to the public, because I'm not sure. But if we can, we'll put that in.
'Cause if you don't have any action items on the second meeting, that kind of defeats your purpose too. You're gonna come back saying, I could have had some action on that meeting, so.
Mayor,
You're gonna have a
Councilman Lopez,
combination.
you have, the way it's structured, you have flexibility in the sense that you would still be doing what you're doing now. You'd have a council meeting every 2 weeks. And all of that I was suggesting, and it's not written in there, is that using the work session and having that language be flexible, you could continue to do every 3 months if you needed to, but we would have the option to add work sessions onto the night of the council meeting so we can move things more quickly along.
I'm on.
That was really my goal, because there were some items, like on this last work session, I could have we could have gotten it out much more quickly, and we could have moved on to other things, and so, again, the idea is to create the flexibility and also to mirror what we're already doing, which seems to work. The 2 council meetings a month seem to work, but even in those instances where maybe we don't have the second one, we could still make it a full-blown work session.
Are we okay leaving it the way it is? Or how we discussed tonight? You got clarity for it?
Are we going with what's on the agenda, or are we going in a different direction?
No, I thought we were gonna go with regular council meeting and then the work session, but changing the verbiage to where the work session can be open to the public, or
Okay.
the public can address council.
Okay, so we'll have a council meeting with the potential for a work session at the end on both meetings, but the work sessions are open to the public.
What do you mean on both?
In other words, you would have the opportunity, if you so chose, on the night of a council meeting to then, end the council meeting and then convene a work session so tonight, once we were done with our council meeting, you could then end the meeting and then reconvene a work session if you needed to. You don't have to, but you could.
But the question I'd have to ask you on that is, if I brought a question to you and you're like, let's talk about that in a work session, why don't we talk about that in council meeting?
Will be, Mayor Couch, the same reason we don't now, right? So we want to have an opportunity to have more open discussion where we're not necessarily voting, but we want to flush out an issue. So if we bring an issue forward, we just want to have a roundtable, staff gets direction, once we know where we're going, then we bring back the official item for you to vote on. It wouldn't change any of that. It's really a timing issue, and it makes it more, we have more opportunities, is really what it does.
When you're saying open to the public, you mean they can speak?
Yes, I
And-
want the
and-
public to be able to speak on the agenda that's going to be before them,
Well, yeah, the agenda, but not the work session.
and the work session.
Well, the work session, if they get to speak, that could clog it up.
I agree with you there.
The work session is so that we can talk somewhat, I don't mean interruption in a bad way to the public, but so that we can speak about what we're doing. Because we've had work sessions get out of hand where we've let the public go ahead and speak and stuff, and it got out of hand. The work session is for us to talk freely, not, and the agenda items are for them, to have input.
I agree with the Councilman Lopez on that.
Go ahead, Gene.
I think if you look around at most of our meetings, there's not a lot of the public here to disrupt anything that we're doing. And the only one that comes to mind is when we talked about the possible change in the sales tax that would have impacted the auto dealers. That was a work session, I
Right.
believe, and they came and we allowed them to speak. And I felt like we spoke first so that we got our thoughts out. I think that allayed a lot of their fears, and probably wasn't as much, there wasn't as much conversation between them and us as there would have been otherwise if they'd have just thought that we were all in favor of changing it. But, if we had a combination work session and council meeting, if that's what we had, the way we had to word it, are we outside the bounds of what we should be doing the way we're doing it now?
Mayor Counts, Councilman Seal, we're not following what's in the code right now, because in the code, the second meeting is a work session, and we're basically doing council meetings. So that was, thing number one was to just mirror what we're doing. And then option number two was to create flexibility around the work session, so you could have it at the end of a council meeting. If we had one or two items, you get, boom, knock them out. But if you still want, let's say when we're going through the budget process and we want to have a Friday work session because we've got some quantity there to discuss, then you still have that opportunity as well. It doesn't take any of that away. So first thing is to mirror what's in the code to what we're doing, which we're not doing now. And then the second thing is to provide that flexibility on the work sessions. And then if we need to, we can add the language in for a call to the public, which we could also, if we want, put a time limit on that. If we end up with an item where there's a lot of folks and maybe we want to limit, like we would kind of tend to try to do in a council meeting, you might be able to put a time limit as well so people don't, go on and on and on. But then, you handle it as you see fit when you're in there, really. But at least you would have a way of saying, okay, you've reached your limit if we did want to shut something down. So again, that was it. Number one was to mirror what we're doing, and number two was to open work sessions up so you had opportunities even on a council meeting night to do a work session, even if it's one or two items, but you still have the option to do the larger work session.
I like that. In other words, but just to get the work done quicker, like you mentioned, items that we don't have to wait 2 or 3 months to get done, it's something we can, you know, I like that idea of having the option of having a work session.
What was the intention, I mean, when you say you want the public to be able to speak, is that a call to the public for the meeting and then another one when you start a work session? Or you want them to be able to chime in on the conversation
Well, I
during
guess,
the work session?
I guess I'm having a heartburn issue for, we talk about an issue at a council meeting, and then we adjourn our council meeting, we go into a work session to talk about that specific topic. Why wasn't all that presented to us in our packet prior to the work session that we're talking about? And so, and to me, I think if that action, or if that item is on the agenda, I think the public should have the right to be able to speak at a work session with a time, with a time restraint, as the manager had said. But what's that time is an issue. That's where I stand.
If I understand correctly, to have a work session, it still has to be agendized, right?
Right.
So would you still have your call to the public prior to our conversation?
Well, as it's written,
Or are you gonna let them get in the meat and bones of it?
I think what I would do.
That's the part I'm kind of opposed to,
I think
is
what I
them
would
having
do-
as much say as one of our department heads.
Just like what we did at the sales tax possibility, I think when we addressed first, I'd let them know that let us talk about it first, and hopefully that could address their issues prior to them addressing. Which I think, as Gene said, I think it did. But that's the work session, but it's still at the same time, maybe they didn't have a chance to be able to speak. And so at a work session, that'd be a great time, for a great opportunity for them to present something that is near and dear to the subject. And we take that opportunity to listen to them at a work session instead of a council meeting. Because that's the purpose of the work sessions. We couldn't either agree on an item, so therefore we wanted to have a work session on it. But if we won't let them talk about it, how are we going to address that item any better?
Or, something you said made me think that we're gonna talk about it in a council meeting and then refer it to the same day in a work session. That's not a doable thing, is it? Unless it- unless it was
Councilman McCoy, no,
agendized.
in fact, I checked on that as based on your question at the work session, and it is not. You can't take an item off the actual council agenda, and then and once you table it, you're then in a situation where you gotta come back to another council meeting. So you can't take an item that you did not come to a conclusion on at the council meeting that night and then move it to the work session. Yeah.
I mean, I just, when there are codes, when there are city codes, we expect people to follow them. In fact, we talk about the things that enforcement in the code. And so, since we're the ones that kind of determine what those codes are, I think we need to follow them. If we're the one that put the code in. So I think we need to decide what we're gonna do. If it's a work session and the public can't speak, or we need to follow that, whatever it is. And so if what we're doing is not right, we either need to make sure that we change the format of the way we're doing it, or we need to change the code so that we're in compliance. Because if we're not gonna follow our own code, we can't expect other people to follow the codes. I guess that's, and whatever that ends up being, like I said, I don't have a strong feeling one way or the other, but if what we're doing now is a little bit out of bounds, we need to correct that.
I agree. I think we should correct it, but I do think we need to, I think we should hear from them, especially if we're gonna be talking about it. I think they have the right to speak, and it should be timed. But, you know, hey, that's how I feel.
Well, my opinion on it would be that the things we discussed in the work session would not be the things that we talked about in the council meeting prior. That these would be additional items after the meeting, if we had it, that were not.
Oh, so they won't continue on?
No.
So what we talked about in the council meeting will not continue on into a work session?
My understanding of it would not be.
Okay.
There would be two
Okay.
separate agendas with two separate sets of
Okay.
topics, and that we have the council meeting, and then.
We're
we would
addressing
go
a
into-
water issue, and we didn't even talk about a water issue.
They're two separate meetings.
Okay.
You-
Two separate
you
meetings.
end the council meeting, and then you convene separately the work session as a
Not
separate.
to talk about what we've already talked about in
Correct.
the meeting. It's about a meeting ahead that we had originally that brought an issue up.
That's correct.
Okay, okay.
Yes, that's the way I understand it.
All right, I
At
like
work
that.
session, I get information from the staff, and we talk and get clarification, and most of that subject matter does not involve the public at that time.
Yeah, but you done got me all confused.
I don't wanna
now.
start it again, I should've shut up.
The same council meeting is not
No,
gonna be
we're not.
talked about in a work session.
No, we're
Okay.
not.
All right, all right. Okay, repeat it, please. But, now, I want to hear from every one of you guys. Do you want to call to the public at a work session? You guys need to kind of give them we're not taking the thing, but I think so. Gene's kind of whatever, I don't know. I just think that there should be something that they should be able to talk about at a work session. Address a time frame. So we got one shaking his head, so he's not verbally gonna say anything, because we don't wanna take it.
Steve's ready to say something.
Steve's ready to say something.
I shook my head.
I'm all about what he's trying to do, the flexibility of making us more productive. I like that. I also think that the public should be able to speak on an item that affects them. I think they should have to fill out the paperwork, and you could defer them and give them the choice like you did at the last time. Do you want to speak before or after? But I think they should have to fill out
Paperwork.
something based on the agenda. And it doesn't matter to me whether it's in a work session or whether it's in a meeting, as long as it's productive
I agree,
and keeps us moving.
I agree.
And I would say, in our council meeting, we have agenda and non-agenda items that we
Right.
refer to. I think in the work session, there should not be non-agenda items.
Exactly.
But at the same time, we need to hear from them, because we don't have all the ideas. I mean,
That's
there are a lot of people out there that have a lot better ideas than we do, and we need to hear those and think about it.
If we call a special work session, then, as you mentioned for budget, is the public going to be invited to those? Or in other words, procedurally, was the public invited to the work session we just had on Friday?
Mayor, Councilman Hemphill, yes, they always are invited. The discussion that's ensuing now is whether or not they can participate in that discussion. But
Right.
they're always invited, the meetings are always noticed. This would not change any of that, all the meetings still have to be noticed.
Or would we then extend, if we're gonna consider letting them speak potentially during the work sessions following our meetings, would we open that up for the special work sessions as well?
Again, Mayor, Councilman Hemphill, the work sessions wouldn't be special, they would just be work sessions.
Right.
Right, so depending on where the conversation goes, if the council decides that they want to have an opportunity for the public to speak at that work session, then it sounds like they would, do something similar, fill out a form, and then there would be an opportunity, probably as we went through each item, because people would probably be addressing the items as they came up, and we could probably even ask, is there anything on the agenda that you want to speak to, and we could move them, so we do them first. So you can have that flexibility, but it would just be a work session.
Right.
The only thing that potentially would change is we would have some public input, which we don't do now. I think we've done it in a couple instances, but the code doesn't allow for it now, so we would want to make that change so that, again, we're just following the code.
Right, thank you.
Well, I like his suggestion, you know, I could go along with it, have them fill out a form on for the agenda items, then, you know, listen to them, control the time.
I think you got 4 now.
All right.
At least I counted to 4.
So this is first read, so we come back with the second version with the alteration?
So you got a lot of homework on that one, but,
That's right, it's good
I do know
discussion.
that the, you know, the, I don't know what I think you need to talk to staff, but I don't know what that actual time limit is. But, you know, 3 minutes is tough, especially on a hard subject that is, you know, deferring to them. So that might need to be flexed a little bit, but knowing that the moment they
Increased?
start name calling and all that other BS, I'm out. We're banking them out, okay?
So you want to see something a little longer than 3
You
minutes?
might want to, you know, kick it around with staff as well, but I think it could be extended, okay?
Okay.
We'll leave it alone, but I think on that kind of a section, I think it could be extended just a hair longer. All right, Tammy, would you go ahead, any more discussion on this? About kicked that one to death. Go ahead, Tammy, read it in.
Ordinance number 020-016, an ordinance of the City of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, amending Chapter 2.04, City Council, Section 2.04.090, regular council meetings, and 2.04.110 work sessions.
Thank you. Bring us to item 10-1. Tammy?
So I have brought forth the council meeting minutes for a few of the meetings. Did you guys have any questions on any of them?
Do we have any questions on the minutes?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 10-2, staff compensation. Alma?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight I'm presenting to you a request for council to review and approve a 35-cent increase for current staff who have completed 2 years of service, 2 years or more of service, effective in the first pay period in January 2021. So in June, when council approved the current year's budget, a 75-cent increase was included in the budget for all regular full-time employees or regular employees who have served the City of Safford for 2 years or more. But due to the COVID and the uncertainty of the revenues, it was decided that we would implement that in two separate occasions. So in July, employees did receive a 40-cent increase, and then pending council approval, employees could receive the remaining 35 cents the first full pay period in January. During the budget process, we also discussed the criteria that would need to be met, and the criteria that we decided on was we would monitor the state shared income tax, the state shared sales tax, and the local city sales tax. These three are the largest revenue sources of the general fund, and they make up about 80% of the general fund. Staff also reviewed looked at the past 5 years to create the criteria, and based on the past 5 years, revenue collected through October averaged about 24%. So it was determined that 24% of the annual budget was a reasonable requirement to meet. At the last council meeting, I did bring an update of these revenues through August, the first 2 months. Tonight I have a update for the city sales tax, the state shared sales tax, and the state shared income tax through October 31st. You can see on the chart that was also provided in the council packet that the city sales tax is at 30% of the budget compared to last year's actuals. We have a positive variance of $159,000. So we collected approximately 12% more in the current fiscal year compared to the prior year actuals. State shared sales and income tax, both are at 33% of budget, and that increases approximately $95,000 compared to the previous year's actuals. So based on the criteria that was approved during the budget process, we have met that criteria, and it is staff's recommendation that we proceed with processing the 35-cent increase, which would be effective the first full pay period in January. This does affect approximately 97 employees, and it will, it is an expense of approximately $47,700, with 35 of that being salaries, and then the additional 12,000 being the employee-related expenses. Are there any questions?
Move to approve. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Bring us to item 11.1, contracts, agreements, and bids, downtown upgrade bid award.
Mayor, council members, tonight we're recommending to award a contract to Gila Cutout Construction for our downtown project. This consists of replacement of poles and conductor. It's in the alleys north and south of Main Street from Central to 8th Avenue, and then there's a piece that goes behind Dairy Queen and crosses the highway. We received 3 bids. We had one lower bidder, but they were excluded because they didn't meet the requirements that we were asking for. And I'll be willing to answer any questions.
Dan, why did they not meet any of our requirements?
They were unable to provide any references of similar work. Everything that they did was just trenching and conduit installation, where we're looking for energized work.
I was glad to see how, reading that, how that was, how it was checked, looked into. I was glad to see that.
And the other red flag on that was the extremely low bid. We don't think they'd be able to do it without having a bunch of change orders.
Well, move we accept Gila Cutout Construction's bid for $391,855.
You have a motion?
I have some questions.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, these people, the H&H Contracting, you're saying they were more underground company?
The work that they provided with us for references, yes.
Okay, and what you're trying to contract is overhead?
Energized work. Yeah.
And you're also trying to get it done in a real tight spaces, where you want to get Gila Cutout, which you kind of know has the expertise because they've worked on a lot of your stuff now.
Yes.
They're equipped, they're then doing it safe, so you do prefer their expertise over these other people that didn't have references too.
It's nothing against H&H, they just don't have the experience that we're asking for.
Okay, now, the engineer's estimate was $500,000. I mean, that's twice, the estimate is twice of what we're accepting the bid. How come the estimates can't be closer? I mean, you say the estimate was 400,000, we're gonna get it for 200,000, oh joy, we're getting a good deal. Now, why can't the estimates be more practical?
Well, if you look at the numbers, if Gila Cutout was not there, the next bidder would have been over the budgeted amount with the added expenses.
Yeah, our budgeted amount was 550,000, the
Right.
estimate was the other.
Yeah,
But
Parker was 528, but if you added in the engineering and design and the contingencies, they'd have been over the 550. You just never know with these contractors. You could get somebody come in real low, you could get somebody come in high. If we'd have had some union contractors come in here, we'd have had a lot higher bids than these.
But who does our estimates, engineering estimates?
The engineering estimate comes from the engineer. The budgeted amount is something that we base on similar projects.
The engineer that we have hired.
Yes,
Who is that?
it's T&D Engineering.
Okay, T&D?
Down here, T&D. Yeah, I just,
That budgeted amount is something that we base on similar projects, and that number is put in place before we get the engineer's estimate. So that's how we base that number.
okay. As long as you got an understanding of it, because I mean, looks like a
It's-
good deal with the estimate's one thing and we come in the other, you know, it's,
No, there's a real wide range of bids here. There really is, and there always is.
okay, you got some jobs that your crews are still attacking to clean up some of this too, and not everything goes out to bid?
Yes, sir, we're still changing out poles. And we have our streetlight project coming up too, but yeah, there's plenty to do.
Okay, sir.
So Dan, on the budget number, that's something that you come away with by you looking at past jobs that you've done, and so that's kind of your number, and of course, I know that budget numbers are always going to be projected high. So do you do your own budget numbers, is that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then we hire out an engineer to actually engineer what needs to be done and how it's done, and you approve that, and then we go out to bid with that, correct?
Correct.
And then that's how we come out with the Gila cutout construction for that. So, I mean, Gila cutout came pretty close to the engineer's estimate. And so I understand what Councilman Lopez is saying on the budget number and stuff, but, you know, hey, this type of work ain't nothing to do with me. It's something to do with you guys, and I look to you guys for all that expertise on that and stuff. So I think if anything, he was just saying he'd like to have seen the budget number be tightened up a little bit more to the engineer's estimate, but regardless, it's your call, so.
Yeah,
And we would too, yes, sir.
I don't wanna pay that amount, but you know, I'd kinda like a little reality. Now, this bid also is the material, they're buying the material, you're not gonna come back and want more money to buy the material that they're gonna put up for us.
No, this is everything here.
All right.
And then the other side of that, again, if Gila Cutout didn't bid on this and H&H was excluded, I'd be here asking you for money.
Yeah, I see that. Contingency, yeah.
Mayor, I'll go ahead and make the second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any more discussion on that? Dan, you have worked with Gila Cutout before, correct? That's who we have.
And Parker, yes.
Yeah, and with them, and you have worked with Parker as well. Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. It brings us to item 12, the announcement of current events. Anybody have anything?
Yeah, I have one.
Okay, go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Just, everybody, I hope you remember that that Wednesday at 11 a.m. in front of the courthouse, there will be an abbreviated Veterans Day service. And then also that the Field of Honor, the flags are out there. I think everybody's seen that. There'll be at 11 a.m. in front of the courthouse, and it won't be long. It's gonna be short because of the cold.
Okay,
Mayor, I have something for Mr. Casella.
okay.
Mr. Casella, can we come back with a report of the pink bins? I've been seeing a lot more stuff overflowing out of them and being put by them, and we could just follow up with that again.
Mayor, Councilman Andazola, are we talking about the same two that remain?
We're talking about the ones that we have here. Yeah,
Okay, the pink.
yeah, the pink ones, yes.
Yeah, because as we had discussed, one of the things we kind of started chasing, like there's another one that showed up at Walmart. So one of the things that is an option for the private owner with the box on their property is to basically file a trespass.
Okay.
And then once they do that, that allows us to go in and remove that item from their property. So I did talk to Carl's Jr.,
Okay.
and the gentleman there was like, I don't know why this is here, I didn't ask for it. There was a second vendor, I won't mention names, but I keep trying to get a hold of them, and I haven't heard back. But if they can go forward on their end and file a trespass for those boxes, that gives us the opportunity to remove them.
Okay, and I did talk to another vendor also, and they explained to me what happened, and I'll discuss that with you later.
Okay.
On that too, but I just want to make sure we have a report on that, so
Okay.
we're getting some progress or something.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you want to report at a meeting, or would an email report be?
No, I want to report it on me.
Okay.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Mr. Casella.
You bet.
Any others? Okay, that brings us to item 13, report on
Mayor?
operational items.
Can
Oh,
I
go ahead, John.
just real quick, I guess it's tradition that we don't do the second meeting in November and the second meeting in December for the holidays.
That is tradition?
Apparently, that's what I was told, unless staff's lying to me. Although I
Since when
can't-
is staff telling us what to do?
I can't imagine why, but So anyway, the November 23rd meeting and the December 28th meeting, I think would be the two that we could potentially, again, it's not required, I'm just putting it out there as, you know, in hopes that they're not lying to me, that potentially exists, that we could cancel those meetings if you so choose. So
I think we should have a meeting in November. Was that the 23rd? That's the
Yeah.
day before Turkey Day, isn't it?
Couple days.
Are you feeling thankful?
No.
Okay.
You still wanna
I
come?
think if we've got business we need to
Yeah.
deal with, we should deal with it.
Deal with
If we
it.
don't, we should.
Yeah.
So both?
Yeah, I think we should have one for sure
Whatever
in
we
November.
need to do, we
Yeah.
should get done.
All right. And then the second item that I had was, at our work session, we had a conversation about a workshop for council dealing with several items, both in terms of code, also in terms of this idea of expectations, and then some visioning. So it's an overall kind of an opportunity to discuss where we're going in the future in a nice open forum where everybody gets to vet what they're thinking about. And so I know sometimes things like this can be a little off-putting, we're not really sure what we're doing, and, you know, there may be some apprehension. So what I did is I talked to the vendor today and I asked them, the training that's gonna be done would consist of bringing two individuals in. One is a former city manager, and the other one is a current vice mayor in Goodyear, Arizona. And it's a two-part process. The first part deals with a survey where it's completely anonymous. So they'll send me an email with the link to SurveyMonkey. And so you click on that link, you take a survey, and the vendor won't even know who answered the questions. Once they gather all that information, then they come back at the workshop, which we're going to have in January on the 8th. They use some of that information from you in order to kind of then begin to kind of build this model that they do that deals with, you know, how do we look at our codes and do they meet our needs? How do we share expectations, both with staff and with each other? So we're saying, here's what we expect to do going forward, which then leads to kind of a visioning process, which then, and I think, you know, Mayor, you and I had talked a little bit about this during the budget discussion, you know, our discussion about the budget. And again, it gives an opportunity to kind of say, let's share our vision for the community and see what priorities we have, do they coincide? And so in trying to be as open and transparent as I can with this, I asked the vendor, can I have the survey questions in advance? And they said yes. They said they haven't done it that way, but I thought I would want you guys to be able to get a look at this in advance, take a look at the questions, and make sure you're comfortable with everything that's on there. Now, obviously, we don't want to gut the training, and part of it is designed to kind of open that dialogue up. So some of the questions may make you a little uncomfortable. Hopefully they don't. But I have hard copies of them with me tonight. So before we exit the building, I wanted to have an opportunity to give each and every one of you a copy of those questions so you could take a look at them and then provide me with any feedback that you have. Again, I don't want to gut the training, but if there are things that there's some kind of consensus that we don't feel we need or we don't want to do, then we can take it out of there and we can make adjustments to it.
Of course, John, the question that I would have, I wasn't at that meeting, but the question I'd have is how much is this costing us?
$6,600.
It's a lot less than I thought it would be.
Mayor, I just,
Okay.
you know, how many in here went to the newly elected officials training? All of us in here? And I went, and that was, over 10 years ago. And I need to be reminded of what is expected of me. And that's kind of what I had hoped that at some point we would be able to have some training similar to that to remind us all of the relationship between us and the manager and what our responsibilities are, you know, towards the staff. And maybe this will accomplish that. But I think I need to be reminded of what I should be doing often. And that was 10 years ago. And I've probably forgotten a lot of what I should be doing and what I shouldn't be doing. So I think it's good to have a little refresher once in a while to bring things back to our recollection.
John, will this set up precedents with other cities and towns also? with doing this type of training or anything like that with the council? Is this approved through the attorney, city attorney, or?
Mayor, Councilman Andazola, this is just standard training. These guys do this all the time, all across the country. And again, I want to make sure that we understand this is more part of this because of the discussions we've had at the work sessions about changing expectations, and there was kind of a disconnect there, in communicating. It's not just about the code. It's not just about what the rules are in, say, our ethics code. It's about your vision, questions about, why did you run for council? And when you begin to answer these questions, you're answering them in a group session. So you're all sharing in an open forum as a group what your vision is for the community, right? So we have to share those ideas so that staff has an idea of where we're going. What is the consensus? You're gonna find that they'll ask you questions about priorities. And there'll be things in there that you may prioritize one way and another councilman will prioritize another way. And you may find there's overlap in some things, not overlap in the other. And they will produce a document at the end that we could even pass as part of a council meeting that says, given our discussions, here where we think we're going, here's what the expectations are, because then it gives staff something to shoot for.
And that's what I was going to be asking for, that we, as council, get together and start having something to present to you prior to budget talk, so that we can agree on the direction of what we'd like to see, where we'd like to see the city be heading for 2021. And it sounds like that this is going to pretty much help head that out.
Yes.
Because if not, then you're just going to take over the helm and run with how you want it to be done. Just hear me out. Don't shake your head.
Right.
But you understand what I'm saying? In other
Yes.
words, if we gave you vision and said, hey, I want you to spend all the money on parks, you're like, all right, they said it. They want to spend all money on parks and they don't want to address Dan's power poles. So that's where we're spending our money this year, you guys, in 2021. So what it does is it helps give you something to steer towards if you hear a majority of what the council is presenting. I mean, so we have to have something in front of us, or in front of you, I should say, or you're just spinning your head trying to find something to do that's going to hopefully make somebody up here happy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And again, Mayor, Council, and members of council, I mean, what we don't want to do is we don't want to keep having budgets that are islands, that every year is an annual budget. At some point, you want to string those together with some rationale towards some set of common goals. Because some of what we work on will not be accomplished in one budget and may take several years to get there. And so if we know that that's the goal, then in each and every budget, we can be working toward that goal over a period of time. And when you express those goals and you have that vision, not only do you express it so that you all understand each other and staff understands where you want to go, but as you go forward as a city, future councils will also see that vision and maybe have some input of their own. So you create some continuity in what you're doing in terms of your day-to-day
Right.
operations.
Well, I'm like with Councilman Seal, when I had my training, manager, council, form of government, it was a little bit more intense. Refreshers during our League of Cities and Towns have not had the oomph after that. It was talked about stuff and that was it. It left it empty. I also said at the work session that we didn't spend any monies on League of Cities and Towns this year, so the monies are still there for this education.
Well, how much is it?
This 6,500.
No, how much do we have for the leagues and towns? Because maybe we should go to Hawaii to have this meeting.
No.
I think it was
no,
10,000.
But I said there's money still there
Yeah.
for training that we did not utilize.
I hate to belabor this and drag the meeting on, but in 2012, we had a work session, and Eric Buckley was the utility director at the time, and we had I think a whiteboard or something over on that wall, and they went around to each one of us and asked us what our main concern was, or our priority. And I think that's a good thing to do quite often, because all of us have different things that are kind of hot buttons for us, and it's nice to be able to get those out so that we can can begin to work on those. And I think that meeting was very helpful. We've only had one of them, and so, you know, this is kind of the same type of thing, and I think it's something that we ought to have, like in a work session, is to go around and try to figure out what our priorities are and what our main concerns that we see looming ahead or that we're facing at the time.
These are all good thoughts and good ideas, and the thing is, they need to stop being ideas and actually start putting paper and pen together and making it happen. And I think that, John, I think you'll be able to run with it. And we need to have something down to where, because there could be times where I might have to jump on Gene's ship because I'm gonna ask for him to jump on my ship next time. So, you know, it's like, okay, I'll do away with my parks this time, but I'll jump on his, you know, water or whatever, you know. So I think it's good. I think it's good that we could have something like that, so. Maybe you could help steer that even for this training that's coming up.
What about Arnold's backstops?
Huh?
What about Arnold's
Yeah, we could
backstops?
get Arnold his backstops on. I think it's really good, I really do. So, any other thoughts on this? And Councilman Steele, this is a record. Arnold hasn't spoke hardly much tonight.
No.
Are you done? No, I'm just kidding.
I'm done on this topic.
Brings us to item 13, report on operational items. Cade, you're up. Don't show us no pictures of Mike spray painting graffiti, okay?
No worries, Mayor and Council. Good evening. When Mr. Holschel came with us to the question of collecting data for graffiti or blight, well, there was a form or something that we could provide for the citizens, for the public, to be easily able to identify and let us know that this stuff exists. And so we've kind of went to the drawing board, looked at the few applications and things that we have here at the city as an IT department and as a GIS department, and came across an application that we could develop, a web application, meaning it's web-based. It doesn't matter if it's on an iPad, an Android phone, an iPhone, it does not matter. It's just web-based. Something that we could provide for citizens to identify those problems, and this is what we had come up with. And so at its base, it's a map-centric application, which is perfect for applications such as graffiti or blight. You can start to see hotspots, you can start to see trends with this type of data. And so at the very least, this is what it is. This is what you get to see. I only have 2 examples up here right now, graffiti, and also another case would be streetlight problems. But citizens log in, there's no username or password, they just click the button just like I did. Log in, and then you want to click a report a graffiti problem, they click on it and hit that submit report, and then they fill out as much as they can. You can take pictures of it, it'll use the GPS in their phone to triangulate where they're at. If it's not a good enough location, they can simply click and point on the map as well to pin the location of where it's at. Take pictures of the graffiti and submit. And then once it's submitted, we have a process in the background that runs that will grab those that have been submitted and email those to Mr. Holschel, letting him know that graffiti has been reported at that specific location. On the management side of it, when Mr. Holschel gets those, he logs into a different portal, and this isn't from the public, this is on our side. He'll have a list, and it's a little gray, I apologize, it's hard to see. But there are items up here right now, and I clicked on one. It zooms into the location on the map, the bottom right-hand side, and then also has the media tied to it as well of the picture of the graffiti problem. And so that one was live. I don't know if they've gotten that one taken care of or not, but that one's there in Firth Park. But the reason to bring this to you, gentlemen, is to hopefully maybe get your minds going on how else we could use something like this for our citizens to report on things. I mean, graffiti and street light problems may just be 2 things. Another thing could be potholes or, you know, something else that's non-emergency related. Water leaks, exactly. That's it in its basic form. It's there, it works really well. We're excited to see how it comes about.
Well, I want to say thank you. This was a great app, so good job.
Well, thank you. Any other clarification?
I'd have to go up to your office.
By all means, come on.
Okay.
For what?
Be happy to have you.
I just did it.
We'd be here another hour.
It's pretty simple. I mean,
Yeah.
It is pretty straight intuitive,
Yeah.
but if any have comments, concerns or questions or anything we can do to improve it, please feel free to let us know.
Mayor.
Go ahead, Brad.
Okay, this might sound a little silly, but if I'm looking at that and it says submit,
Mhm.
I'm thinking I haven't even created it yet. Why I don't know if it would be better to say file or,
Sure.
where you're identifying the problem. When you first showed it and I saw submit, I was already thinking, where's the, when I click submit, I think I'm submitting what I've already reported as opposed to,
Okay.
but maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm just a little dense in this, or create a report, or, am I the only one that thinks when
I
it says
think it
submit?
should say create a report and then
'cause
submit when you filled your
You
information.
click submit there, if you'll do it, Cade,
Yes. Mhm.
click submit there, and then oh, now you're reporting it. I see, there's a difference.
And you don't have to fill out the information if you don't want to, correct?
Correct. It can contain completely anonymous, just a picture and a dot on the map is all it will show.
But that just kind of threw me right when I first saw submit, when there wasn't anything that I would have created yet.
Mayor and Council, my hat's off to you in the English department, so
Yeah.
I will look forward to your direction, absolutely.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others? Perfect, Mayor and Council, thank you.
Thank you. Brings us to item 14.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Motion passes.
Put that.